Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Friday. I hope everybody had an amazing week. And you guys already know what we're doing here. DTA is back with another daily analysis talking about AMP and Bitcoin. Today, the markets are looking really, really, really good. So, just hopping right in, looking at CoinGecko.com, we can see that AMP is up 15.7%. So could this be the start of a bull run or the next impulse up? Stay tuned. We'll talk about that later. So we've been floating in between, this 0.0412, 0.048 range for the last 24 hours. And we've also, grown in terms of market cap. So yesterday we were ranked at number 48. Today we are ranked at number 43. So, again, there's been a lot of accumulation happening. There's been a lot of new holders hopping into, the AMP market. And the result of that is, an increase in the market cap. So just looking at etherscan.com, we can see that, we now have 28,270 holders. Again, we are increasing in new AMP holders by an average of at least 100 new holders a day. At the max, we see at least, 250 new holders a day, but, at the bare minimum, at least 100 new holders a day. And this is great to see, because it's growing awareness of AMP, and also the need of a collateral management ecosystem that acts as a token in a smart contract. So, this is great to see. I'm happy that, a lot of people are learning about AMP and the history behind it, and also the developers of AMP, Consensus and Flexa Network. So that's what we have for Etherscan. And hopping right into the charts, you know, we can actually see on the daily, things are looking really, really good. So, again, on the 21st of July, we did have the low and we formed support at the 0.038 mark. So, if you guys have been following the Reddit post that I actually share, in addition to the videos that I do, then, you should be well in, good profit at this point. The 0.038 mark held as support. Again, we went up to retest the 0.046 mark. We got rejected, but we didn't get rejected too hard. The bears actually could not push us down any further. We had a low of, 0.042 on the 22nd. And, today being the 23rd of July, we are just massively buying and we can see that we are, above the 0.046 mark. And, this is where we want to be. This is where we want to, hold. This is where we want to close above. And this is ultimately where we want support to, kick in. We don't want to get rejected at these levels. So, again, just sort of looking at the Heiken Ashi candlesticks, we can see that, the trend is starting to reverse, right? These candlesticks are much easier to identify a trend than, the traditional American candlesticks on the charts, right? So, if you are a little confused about how to understand these candlesticks, and also how to read it on the charts, you have two numbers essentially, right? So you have your average number right here, which is normally above the time, right? So because this is a daily time frame, we have the daily time frame here in terms of hours, minutes, and seconds. So this is the countdown of when this daily candlestick will close. And above that, again, we have the average, right? This is the average of the high and the low, the average of the price for today. And then above that, this is where we have the actual price, right? This is where we have the actual price of the candlestick. So right now, the actual price of AMP is 0.048. Looks like we're pushing to touch the 5 cents mark. And if we could do that, I think that would be huge, tremendously bullish, especially after, last night's episode live stream on the podcast, hosted by Scott. Huge shout out to you, Scott, bringing on Eli Noto on the podcast. That was really epic. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later, also. But we are above the 0.046 mark, and again we want to hold above that. We want to close above that. We want to form support above that so we can really confirm that, this is a reversal. Looking at the 4 hour, right? This is where things get, really interesting. Again, let's zoom in just a little bit. So yesterday we said that we don't want to go lower than here, right? We said that we wanted to form a new higher low. And that is, literally what happened. So, as time goes on, because, we're on a 4 hour time frame. So it takes 4 hours for each candlestick to form and to close. We did form, this higher low. So we had this low, we had a lower low, now we have a higher low, right? If we, include the highs, we can count it down this way. So we have the low, we have a lower high, we have a lower low, we have another lower high, but then we have a higher low, right? And we're looking to push to get a higher high. We can get that. We can expect to have, another pullback to, possibly the 0.047 mark, right? Once we do close above here, we get this higher high, right? Ultimately, we're going to come down and put in a higher low, right? So the higher low could either close at the 0.046 mark, or it can close up here, only pull back slightly and close at the 0.047 mark, right? But ultimately, since we are moving higher, we're bound to see a higher high followed by a higher low, right? So I would caution anybody against buying at high levels and just wait for the pullback, because when you buy a pullback, you get a better price entry. So it's great to see this on today's chart. Again, we really just want to close above the 0.046 mark, and we want to hold that as support so we can confirm that this reversal is coming, and we are in store for another nice impulse. So that's what we have taking place on the charts. And for those of you who didn't tune into last night's episode for Scott's live stream on the podcast, I did say that I wanted to ask Eli a question about, have they heard about the news about the miners planning to revolt against the upgrade for Ethereum, the EIP 1559 upgrade? And I'm glad that I actually got a chance to dial in. So I want you guys to just listen to his response, because it's incredibly bullish, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to get him on the podcast, and hopefully we'll be able to get more of the Flexa team on the podcast. Maybe get them up here on the daily analysis. Who knows? But listen to his answer, and you can see why Amp is Amp is incredible. Just listen.
Let me see. We are going with this is I can only put up what my call screener writes in there. So we are going with DTA from New Jersey. Delta Tango Alpha from New Jersey. What you got on your mind, sir?
Hey, what's going on, Scott? For folks who know me in the Reddit community, I go by the name DTA. I actually shouted you out today on my daily analysis on AMP. Eli, thank you so much for joining the community today. And my question is really twofold. So one, I'm just kind of curious to know if the Flexa team has, sort of heard about the news of miners planning to reorg to destabilize the Ethereum network once the upgrade of EIP 1559 goes live.
Yeah, yep. I spend a large part of my day still just consuming crypto news in every form and fashion. So definitely aware of that, though I would say Tyler would be able to give a much more insightful answer as to what the potential impacts of that are. But was there a part two to that?
Yeah, the second part, you actually kind of just answered it. But I'm also curious to know, since AMP is, agnostic to, the utility does, increase Can it, withstand an event like that if it does happen? And I know that we're all hoping it doesn't happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that at the end of the day, AMP is asset agnostic. So, what happens with one particular protocol is not going to make or break AMP or Flexa. So, it's an interesting question, and I'm not sure that necessarily gives you the answer you're looking for, but it's a tricky thing to, I guess, predict as well. But I would say we're pretty well insulated from that, and that's one of the things that I love about Flexa and AMP is, we can just work with any asset, so it gives us a lot of room to just go where it makes sense to go.
Exactly.
Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it straight from the man Eli Noto's mouth. What happens to one protocol isn't necessarily going to make or break AMP because they are asset agnostic. They can go anywhere. So, for all of those who were worried about, what could potentially happen if, the miners do revolt against the upgrade, don't worry. AMP is, positioned to withstand anything because, again, it's asset agnostic. And that's really the true value of AMP. So huge shout out to the Flexa team. Thank you, Eli, for, answering my question. And Apple, you have to do better because I actually dialed in from my AirPods and we can hear the quality of my AirPods versus the quality of my microphone when I do these daily analysis. So, that is something that I really wanted to share with you guys. That's incredibly bullish. And that might actually have something to do with, the price pumping today. But last but not least for AMP, we actually have a good news article from via.news talking about AMP only, right? So, the headline of this is AMP price jumps by 3.52%. It's up way more than that right now. But over the last 6 hours, this breakout near 4 cents. We're way past 4 cents now. This came out late last night, and it dives deep and really asks the question of, is this the beginning of a price pump? Well, is it, or is it the beginning of utility picking up on the Flexa network and AMP being utilized as collateral from the merchants that Flexa has turned on the merchant fees with, right? I think that's the bigger question. So this is tremendously bullish for AMP. I'm, just super excited. And I'm glad that, Eli had a chance to, demystify some of the things and questions that, investors, retail, and others had about, the Flexa network and also the AMP token. Last but not least, let's end it off talking about Bitcoin really quick. Let's pull up the Bitcoin chart. Oh, I see AMP just hit 5 cents. Let's go. So looking at Bitcoin's chart, right? Again, we are still, in this descending triangle, right? We have not broken out of this, right? We know that a lot of accumulation has been happening with Bitcoin. And, if we measure this move, if this descending triangle does, complete in the way that TAs would expect, then we could see, a Bitcoin dropping to 21,700, give or take. But, right here, we did see us fall below our support line, which indicates a false breakdown, right? So we had this false breakdown, and now we're moving up to the upside, right? Normally, when you see a false breakdown, that is coupled with a breakout to the upside, right? So we're going to keep our eye on this, right? We're just going to let's highlight this, right? Let's do that, and then let's put a little bit of text there, right? Because this was a false breakdown. All right, we got that false breakdown there. And now we're really just going to wait for the breakout to the upside, right? I think we're going to see something like this, break above, the resistance line, possibly form support on it because retest and pullbacks, they normally happen with breakouts. And then we'll see a move to the next fib extension level, touching 34,258 cents before moving upwards. And again, pulling back forming support on this fib extension level at the 34,300 level before moving to the upside and retesting 37K to some possible higher levels, right? So that's what we have for Bitcoin. But again, the B word conference, that was incredibly bullish. That really demystified a lot of thoughts, a lot of bad cognitive notions about Bitcoin, and really engaged the institutional audience. So I think that next week we'll see some incredible things happening. We'll see a lot of market movement, and I think the narrative from the news will also start to change. Right, over the previous weeks, during this entire downturn, what do we see? Nothing but negative news, nothing but FUD. People trying to get you to sell your assets. But when things do bottom out and level out, the narrative of the news starts to change a little bit, right? We start to see a little bit more positive news, right? We start to see things like this, right? Is this the beginning of a breakout or a pump, right? So the media definitely does influence a lot, but understanding the narrative of it definitely helps you become a better investor. So that's what I have for you all today. Huge shout out to Scott on the podcast. Make sure you follow him. Huge shout out to Eli and the Flexa team. Small team of 12, but doing crazy and powerful things. So salute to you guys. If you guys like this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you want to donate, you can find my donation address for Bitcoin and Ethereum inside of the video description below. And until tomorrow, DTA is